Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we take, mountains of information and really boil it down to the crucial bits, giving you that shortcut to being genuinely well-informed. Today, we're jumping into the world of Medtronic, a real heavyweight in healthcare technology. Our mission here is to unpack their latest Form 10K. Now, that's their big annual report to the SEC. Basically gives you the full picture, warts and all, of their operations, risks, finances. It's like a backstage pass. We'll look at their mission, their cutting-edge devices, the money side of things, and, the challenges they face operating globally.
Exactly. And this deep dive should give you a unique perspective. We're not just listing facts from the report. We want to connect the dots for you, show you why the numbers and statements matter, how their big plans meet the tough realities of this industry. It's highly regulated, constantly changing.
Okay, so let's start with that core identity, their mission, to alleviate pain, restore health, and extend life. I mean, that's a really powerful statement, isn't it?
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
And it's not just, a nice slogan on the wall. They explicitly state it empowers them to engineer the extraordinary and deliver better outcomes for our world. They build on values like integrity, quality, inclusion. They call it the Medtronic mindset.
A Medtronic mindset. So that's about acting boldly, competing, but doing it
The right way. That's
Yeah.
their phrase. It's meant to guide how they actually innovate and operate.
So how does that mindset, that mission actually show up in the products? What are they making that changes lives? What kind of tech are we talking about?
Well, they break it down into four main segments, and the scope is pretty vast. First, the cardiovascular portfolio. And yeah, it's pacemakers, but it's way beyond that now. Think incredibly advanced stuff like miniaturized, leadless pacemakers. These are tiny devices implanted right in the heart, no wires needed. Huge for patients.
Wow, no wires.
Yeah. And sophisticated heart valves, systems for renal denervation. That's a minimally invasive way to help manage high blood pressure by targeting specific nerves. Their cardiovascular sales were actually up 5% last fiscal year, driven by things like cardiac ablation for irregular heartbeats and structural heart innovations.
Okay, so heart tech is big, but they don't stop there, right? You mentioned diving deep into the brain and nervous system, too.
Absolutely. That's their neuroscience portfolio. It covers everything from cranial and spinal tech to neurovascular products. These treat really complex issues like brain aneurysms and strokes. They have devices like the Pipeline Flex, which redirects blood flow from an aneurysm, or solitaire devices, which physically retrieve clots during a stroke.
Incredible.
And what's really fascinating is neuromodulation, spinal cord stimulation for chronic pain, for example. And their deep brain stimulation, DBS devices, they're like pacemakers for the brain.
Pacemakers for the brain.
Yeah, helping people with Parkinson's, for instance. And they just got FDA approvals, making the DBS surgery less invasive and adding, better monitoring. It's really cutting edge.
That is amazing, the range there, from tiny heart devices to brain tech. What about the operating room itself, the tools surgeons use?
Right. That's the medical surgical portfolio.
Yeah.
And again, it's not just scalpels and staplers, though they make advanced versions of those too. It's more about bringing tech into the OR. We're talking AI-powered video platforms that can, assist surgeons. And definitely robotic-assisted surgery, like their Hugo RAS system.
Hugo, okay.
And a key strategy here, something they highlight, is open to MIS.
Open to MIS.
Yeah, shifting traditional open surgeries, the big incisions, to minimally invasive techniques, tiny cuts, faster recovery. Now, this segment's sales were flat last year, but their focus is clearly on these high-tech, efficiency-driving approaches. It could really change how surgery is done globally.
It's clear they're pouring resources into innovation, which, hearing about all this amazing tech, makes you wonder, how do they pay for it all? The financial engine must be massive. Let's get into the numbers.
Yeah, it's a good point because the scale is, pretty staggering. Medtronic is a huge global company. Back in October 2024, their market value was over $116 billion.
Billion, wow.
Yeah. And for annual operations, their net sales last fiscal year, 2025, hit nearly $33.5 billion. That was up 4% from the year before. And the growth was pretty balanced between the U.S. and internationally.
$33.5 billion in sales.
Yeah.
Okay, so where does that money go? How are they prioritizing spending to keep the innovation and operations running?
Well, their commitment to innovation really shows up in the R&D spend. They invested about $2.7 billion in research and development.
2.7.
Yeah, in both fiscal 2025 and 2024. So it's consistent, serious investment. And that directly fuels the products we were talking about and, ultimately helps lower healthcare costs, reduce hospital stays. Their selling, general, and admin expenses, SG&A, went up slightly to about $10.8 billion. That's mostly launching new products, expanding their reach. Makes sense.
And the overall cash situation, are they bringing in enough to fund everything?
Yeah, they're generating a lot of cash. Operating activities brought in over $7 billion in fiscal 2025, which was up by over $250 million.
Yeah.
Mainly just better cash collections from customers. On the investing side, they actually spent a bit less on acquisitions than the year before, kind of strategically, but they did invest more in property, plant, and equipment, expanding their footprint. They do manage quite a bit of debt, around $28.5 billion, but they have solid financing available, like a big $3.5 billion credit line. Shows financial stability.
So for our listener, what's the bottom line on these huge numbers? What does it mean for them?
Well, it means Medtronic's financial health isn't just, a corporate report card.
Mm-hmm.
It directly impacts their ability to keep pushing medical technology forward. Their strong financial position lets them sink those billions into R&D, handle complex global operations, and ultimately get those life-saving, cost-saving products out to patients and hospitals everywhere. It really is the engine driving that mission.
Okay, but operating at that kind of scale in such a critical field,
Yeah.
it can't be easy. There must be huge challenges, right? Beyond just other companies competing.
Oh, absolutely. It's an incredibly high-stakes environment.
Yeah.
And while there are many challenges, maybe two really stand out. First, global regulation. It's getting stricter, more unpredictable. Agencies like the US FDA and the EU with its new medical device regulation, the EU MDR, they have really extensive rules for everything. Design, labeling, monitoring.
Right.
Any slip-up, any adverse action can seriously limit their ability to sell products. They even mentioned in the report that potential workforce cuts at the FDA could slow down product approvals. That's a real risk.
A bottleneck for innovation, effectively. Okay, that's a big one. What about other risks, maybe less obvious ones?
Then there's the whole area of data privacy and cybersecurity. It's huge. They handle incredibly sensitive information, patient health data, their own intellectual property. And they rely heavily on electronic systems. They explicitly acknowledge their AI systems, which are becoming more common in their tech, could have flaws, biases, or be manipulated.
That's scary in healthcare.
Exactly. It's not just a data breach risk. It could impact operations, even patient safety. And if they don't comply with all the evolving data laws globally, big fines, reputational damage, it adds this whole new layer of tech-related risk.
And taxes. We always hear about big corporations and taxes. Is that another headache for a global company like Medtronic?
It definitely is. Very complex. For instance, they've been in this significant long-running tax dispute with the IRS. It's about how income was allocated with their subsidiary in Puerto Rico going way back to 2005, 2006.
Wow, that far back.
Yeah. It's gone through appeals, oral arguments just happened last year. It's a high-stakes thing. They have reserves set aside for uncertain tax positions, totaling almost $3 billion.
$3 billion just for uncertain tax positions.
Yep. It just highlights the sheer complexity of global corporate taxes and, the potential financial impact these disputes can have.
That is incredibly complicated. So with all these regulations, data risks, tax issues, how does the company manage itself? How do they try to navigate all of this and maintain trust?
It really shines a light on why internal controls and corporate governance are so critical for them. They have really comprehensive policies, like a global insider trading policy. It applies to everyone, employees, directors. Strictly forbids trading on any important info the public doesn't know yet.
And they define that pretty broadly, right?
Very broadly. What counts as material information could be anything from a product launch to a cybersecurity incident, even changing auditors, anything that might affect the stock price. And for top executives, there are even stricter rules, like needing pre-clearance for trades, specific guidelines for setting up trading plans with cooling off periods.
Right.
And beyond trading, there's a big emphasis on ethics, anti-corruption efforts, obviously, but also a policy to actually recover bonus money from executives if the company has to restate its financials.
Even if the executive didn't do anything wrong.
Even if there was no misconduct involved. If the numbers were wrong and they got paid based on those wrong numbers, the company has a policy to claw it back. It's all about maintaining integrity and stability in a really demanding environment.
We've covered a lot today, a really fascinating deep dive into Medtronic from that core mission, alleviating pain, restoring health, extending life, through to the amazing products, the huge financial scale, And this complex web of global risks and regulations they navigate every single day, it truly shows how complex and vital it is to operate right at the forefront of healthcare technology.
It really does, and it brings up an interesting question for you, our listener, to think about. Given Medtronic's push into cutting-edge tech, especially AI, alongside the constant challenge of global regulation, how do you think this rapid AI innovation will actually force healthcare regulations to change? Will they just evolve, or will they need a complete rewrite in the coming years?
Definitely something to chew on. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. We hope this look inside Medtronic gave you a new appreciation for the companies shaping our health and future. Until next time, keep that curiosity alive.